Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers now, with my brethren all around the world watching this video. Wanted to talk about just interesting news that was reported a couple days ago about this whole Mikey Garcia Earl Spence situation. Now, there has been no finalized contracts, TV networks, or dates like anything like that, but we now have moved into the stage of where we know, like, okay, they want these two guys to fight, and they've thrown out a date, they've thrown out a venue, and it sounds very realistic. So, what's being reported to me, what's being reported out there to the world that I have in front of me on boxing.com, shouts out to them as always, is that Earl Spence Jr. and Mikey Garcia is being eyed for March the 16th, Cowboy Stadium on Showtime pay per view. Now, this fight, I mean, that sounds very realistic for a multitude of reasons. Like, for one, Earl Spence fought Carlos Ocampo earlier this year at the Ford Center, which is the Dallas Cowboys practice facility. So that they've already tried making fights for Earl Spence in Dallas, and trying to build his base up there. Um, Jerry Jones is also, been working with Earl Spence and PBC and trying to make these big events happen. And boxing, as much as it is about the fights itself, it's also about events. It's show business with blood. So you better make sure you put on some good events. And this, while for the hardcore boxing fans like myself and many others, we're not necessarily intrigued by Mikey Garcia Earl Spence fight, because we all, most of us, believe that Earl Spence is going to go in there and just straight up wail on Mikey Garcia. The fact of the matter is, it's still two big names. It's still, it's interesting to just for the simple fact that it's two big names. So we'll leave it at that. But what's being reported is that March 16th, these guys are going to fight. Now, Earl Spence Jr., Mike Garcia, these guys have both shown within this calendar year that they're good draws. Mike Garcia sold 12,000 tickets when he fought Lipinets earlier in San Antonio, Texas. Earl Spence sold just north of 12,000 tickets. Oh my bad, I have my number mixed up. Earl Spence sold 12,000 in Texas. Mike Garcia sold just north of 12,000 when he fought Robert Easter Jr. at the Staples Center. So these guys have shown the ability to sell tickets at a decent clip. You put them together, particularly in someone like Texas, where there's a lot of Mexicans. Earl Spence, his name has grown in his hometown, in his home state. There's got to be, it has to make sense. It has to make sense enough to the PBC people and Showtime for them to want to put this fight on. Now, it isn't set in stone. It's just what's being reported out there. Mikey did vacate the IBF 135-pound belt, and he won't be fighting Richard Commey, as that's been reported. So, it's interesting, man. It's definitely interesting to see just this move along. Because we haven't heard a whole lot from Errol. We haven't heard a whole lot from Mikey other than him vacating that belt. So I thought this fight was going to be pretty much BS. I still think, until I see a contract signed and I see these guys fighting, I think it's BS, because when you factor in the site fees, the purses these guys are going to want, just everything that goes into making a fight of this magnitude between these two guys, I just don't see the cost versus benefit, reward going in favor of PBC for them to fall through making this fight. But, crazy things have happened in boxing. That's why I'm going to stay put. It is also worth noting, and I wanted to make note of this because I saw this crap and I lost my mind. So on Boxing News 24, so we talked about Spence and Mikey. There's really not much more to say. They're looking at the 16th, Cowboy Stadium, big venue, big names, big fight. Should be fun. Mikey's taking a risk. Kudos to him if he actually signs the contract. But let's switch gears here, because Mikey Garcia then went. I saw another article on Boxing News 24, and I found it very interesting because basically the title of the article was that Mikey Garcia will fight Terrence Crawford in 2 years, says Robert Garcia. Now, it is worth noting that here's what Robert said in regards to Mikey fighting Terrence Crawford within the next 2 years. He said, I quote, "If Mikey ever fights Crawford," which is, if, "it'll probably be 2 years from now, because I think Crawford's going to fight Mike Alvarado. Then he might give Thomas Delome a rematch. That's probably why Top Rank doesn't even mention Crawford's name. They mention Lomachenko, and that's the fight they want." Robert then went on by saying, I quote, "I talked to Crawford last Saturday about it too, and I told him straight up the way it is. I was with Bob earlier that day. Everybody at Top Rank, and nobody mentions Mikey versus Crawford. The fight they want to do is Mikey versus Loma. Lomachenko's team, top rank. Everybody wants Mikey versus Loma. Nobody mentions Crawford. So that's what it is, man. And what else? Did you say anything else? Then he basically says that he thinks Mikey can beat Crawford. So that was in a Fight Hub article. And honestly, man, I know, like Robert Garcia, and I'm sorry, man. I have lots of respect for Robert Garcia as a trainer. Like I really, really do. I think he's a fantastic trainer. I was a very big admirer of what he did with Marcos Maidana. But honestly, like just as much as Mikey, because and you guys, I'm gonna say here, I'm gonna answer. Because people ask me this question, Brennan. Do you have something personal against Mikey Garcia? Like, do you hate Mikey Garcia? No, I don't hate Mikey Garcia. I've actually went out of my way many times to tell you guys that I think he's a fantastic fighter. I think he could be an A-level fighter. I think he has that kind of talent. But he just the way he moves, him being a diva, and just the constant bullshit that's spewed out of the mouth of him, and honestly his brother as well. It really kind of frustrates me as a boxing fan. And the way he moves, I think, just isn't good for boxing. I really don't think it is. And anybody who I feel isn't good for the sport is someone that I always have an issue with. So yeah, that's what it is there. But Robert, to give you guys some context, like when Robert, I'm gonna say it was earlier this year, sometime earlier this year, Robert Garcia came out and said literally and said that Mikey Garcia will never move up to 147. He said that. Now they're they're trying to make a Spence fight, but it's not finalized. And then now what he's doing, they're still attaching Mikey's name to Terrence Crawford. And this is something that he's done, that they have regularly done since 2016. Like I have, if you literally look up on my channel, I have videos from 2016 where I was making videos from boxing articles where Mikey's saying, I'm going to fight Lomachenko and Crawford in 2017. And then 2017 came and went. He never fought those guys. And it's funny because, in 2 years you're going to fight Mikey, but then it's a known fact that Mikey doesn't have a good relationship with Bob Arum. Bob Arum isn't going to put up with Mikey Garcia's BS. So, it's interesting, man. I'm very, very, very interested to see what his next move, what his next fight is. Because I'll be honest with you, I think Mikey Garcia is gonna pull some bullshit and fight somebody that is not a champion, or is not like a top 5 guy in any division. Straight up, because the dude, it's his career. You're as a boxer, it's a tough living to make. So if you're in the business squarely to make the money first, then God bless you, make the money first. But then when people don't give you the respect you deserve because you took the safest fight on every occasion, don't get mad at the media. Don't get mad at the fans. Don't get mad at anybody that's like that, okay? So we're not discrediting Mikey Garcia's skills, but what I'm getting pissed off with is the fact that he it's just all talk, man. He's just blowing smoke over everybody's asses. So hopefully, for Mikey's sake, I really don't want to see the Spence fight because I think he's going to get the dog shit beat out of him. But if he feels he can win the fight genuinely, and he goes in there and he wins it, all of a sudden we're talking about Mikey Garcia as probably the pound punk king of boxing, and his whole record is looking a lot better. So, take the risk. If you win, you're a freaking legend. If you lose, then you're gonna just be, your stock will go up, and people will credit you for taking the step up against Errol Spence, because there's welterweights that won't even fight Errol Spence. So that's that. But as far as him fighting Crawford, let's not kid ourselves. He's not gonna fight Terrence Crawford. Because the same pathway Terrence Crawford took to become one of the faces of Top Rank, Mikey Garcia had that same pathway. The same fights Crawford had. Mikey could have had those same fights, and it would have even worked out better for him because he's Mexican. Like the Gamboa fight, the Delorme fights, all those fights, Mikey could have had them, could have won them, and he would be in a lot better position than Crawford's in right now because he's Mexican, and Mexicans always just they always do well. If you're an exciting fighter, you're a good promoter, you're Mexican, you're going to do well in boxing. But he chose not to fight those guys. He was in a contract dispute with Top Rank for 2 years, and now he's with Al Haymon. He's taking safe fight after safe fight after safe fight. Robert Easter Jr. fight was a unification fight, so it's hard to call it a safe fight, but really it was still a safe fight. But I give him a little credit for that because I criticized him for not taking the fight in the first place early on in the year. So he fought Robert Easter Jr. Even if he was weakest champion, he still fought him, dominated him like he should have. And do what he's supposed to do. So hopefully, man, I'm looking forward to seeing me fight Joe Spence, and I'm not gonna ramble on too much longer. But basically, yeah, they're talking about the 16th for Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence at Cowboy Stadium. So that'd be a massive event for boxing. Be cool to see a big fight at Cowboy Stadium again. And then you got his brother Robert Garcia talking about he's gonna fight Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford the next 2 years when he won't even fight any bum on Top Rank for anything because his demands are too unrealistic and they've always been. And Bobby Arum has said that. That's why he can't work with him. That's why I had a hard time continuing on with him because he made unrealistic demands. So we'll see, man. I have my doubts about whether or not his demands for a fight like this with Errol Spence, if his demands be realistic enough for them to get to a place where the contracts be signed, finalized, and agreed upon. So we'll see what happens. We'll definitely make note of it here on True School Sports. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Mikey Garcia, Errol Spence, March 16th, Cowboy Stadium. That's being worked upon as it's been reported. And also, Robert Garcia says Mikey Garcia is going to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. Yeah, you believe that? In the next 2 years. So leave your comments down below. Take the time to subscribe. Like I say in every single video, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just giving dang it. So until next time, take care, guys.